The Scottish rain lashed against the cracked window of Kay's draughty cottage, matching the simmering fury that never really left his bones. His hand closed around a dented can of special brew, the cold, bitter taste burning all the way down, just how he liked it. He ran a palm hard over his smooth scalp, knuckles white, jaw clenched so tight it ached. He was a starseed, cursed with eyes that saw too much and a temper that flared like wildfire, hiding from everything he'd broken in London. Every day felt like a cage, and every can he crushed under his boot was one more way to quiet the rage screaming in his head. The only other person who ever set foot in this damp, cluttered place was his flatmate and unlikely advisor, Snoop Dogg. He turned up out of the mist 6 months back, said he'd grown tired of LA and reckoned the Highlands were the perfect spot to lay low for a while. Now he spent most days lounging on Kay's sagging sofa, slow and easy, never fazed no matter how loud Kay yelled or how many cans he smashed up. "Easy, brother," Snoop would say, leaning back with a grin, holding out a freshly rolled joint. "Anger's just fire you're holding in your own hands. Drink that stuff to drown the noise, and all you do is turn the volume up. You gotta ride the storm, not fight it." AK would snarl and storm out the door, but he always came back. No one else had ever talked to him like that, like he wasn't just a mess of rage and mistakes. A few miles down the rutted lane lived Andy. He was bald as an egg, with a faint red mark right in the center of his forehead that looked like it had been there forever. His wheelchair sat pulled up close to the rusted stove, half-empty pints and neatly rolled joints stacked within easy reach. He ran a small YouTube channel where strangers sent donations to help him get by, and more often than not, that money went straight to the things that made the long, aching days bearable: cold beer and weed that took the edge off the pain that never left his body. He was quick with a joke, always grinning, never letting on how heavy things felt, until Sasha moved into the little cottage right across the road. Sasha was bright, sharp and unshakable. She'd come from Mumbai to work at the local community centre, strong and disciplined, starting every morning with yoga on her porch, her toned muscles moving with steady grace in the crisp Highland air. She had a warmth that drew people in, but a fire in her eyes that meant she'd never let anyone walk all over her. They met on one of the worst stormy afternoons. Andy's wheelchair got stuck deep in mud halfway home, and he was struggling hard to free himself when Sasha stopped, her strong arms helping push him to solid ground before he could even argue. A few days later, she turned up at Kay's door with a pot of hot curry, only to find him pacing, swearing, crushing empty special brew cans and kicking them across the floor. Snoop just nodded politely from the sofa and said, "Right on. Thank you kindly, ma'am." Slowly, they began to meet most evenings at Andy's place. Kay would turn up angry and half-drunk, snapping at small things, his temper flaring hot and fast. Andy would tease and joke, trying to lighten the heavy air. Snoop would lean back in the corner, observing everything, dropping quiet bits of wisdom whenever the mood got too tense. And Sasha would sit watching them all, calm and sure. Kay fell first. He saw how Sasha didn't flinch when he shouted, didn't step back when he was at his worst. She just waited until the storm passed, then spoke to him like he was actually listening. Even Snoop noticed the change. "That lady's got you looking at the sky instead of the floor, my man," he said one evening. "Hold on to that!" For the first time in years, Kay found himself pausing before he reached for another can, though the anger still burned bright, sharp and hot in his chest. But his past hung over him like a dark cloud, and he was certain if she knew what he'd done in London, she'd turn her back and never look back. Andy fell too. He loved how Sasha never treated him like he was broken, never looked at his wheelchair or the red mark on his forehead and saw anything other than him. She'd sit for hours helping him edit his videos or just talk about everything and nothing, and he'd find himself smiling more than he ever had. But he'd seen the way Ake looked at her, wild, desperate, all that rage softening just for a moment, and he knew he couldn't compete with that kind of fire. Sasha cared for them both, deeply. She saw the hurt under AK's anger, the fear he tried to drown out with every sip. She saw the kindness and warmth under Andy's easy smile and the quiet strength he tried to hide. And she liked Snoop's calm way of keeping everyone grounded, but she could feel the tension growing between them, thick as the mist over the hills, and she knew something would have to give soon. One evening, as the storm raged outside, AK finally snapped. He slammed his empty can down hard on the table and told them everything. London, the crimes, the running, the voices and the rage he could never control. He waited for them to recoil, for Sasha to walk away, for Andy to turn on him. Andy leaned forward, his voice steady. "We've all got things we carry, mate. Doesn't mean you don't get to be here." Sasha looked right at him, her voice calm but firm. "Your anger isn't all of who you are, and your past doesn't get to decide your future." Snoop nodded slowly, taking a slow drag. "Ain't nobody perfect. We're all just figuring it out one day at a time." The anger in AK's chest didn't vanish overnight, and he still reached for that can more often than he should. But for the first time, he didn't feel quite so alone. They didn't have all the answers yet, and they didn't know who Sasha would choose. But sitting there by the fire, with the wind howling outside, they knew they'd face whatever came next, together.